the polymer glucose. Okay. The chemical composition of glycogen, number one, in the core of glycogen there is a peptide, glycogenine. So there is a peptide, glycogenine. So glycogenine. This is the peptide. And this glycogenine consisting from two subunits. And each subunit will be polymer of glucose. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At 5 will be branching point and also longer chain of polymer of glucose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and also branching. So glycogenine, two longer chains, branching, and so on. So glycogenine, very long chain. So chain, branching, chain, branching, chain, branching, chain, branching. Okay, but the between the branch point and the second branch point, at least 4 molecules of glucose. So branching, what organizes the branching? So branching at not any glucose molecule must be at least 4 molecules between the glycogenine and the branching point. From this branching point and second branching point or other branching point, at least 4 molecules. Okay? So it is organized configuration. Okay, so very long chains. Glycogen consisting from at least 600 molecules of glucose, stored in cytoplasm in granules. So stored in hepatocytes and in the skeletal muscle in the granules. Okay? The function of glucose is the source of glucose in case of fasting. So in fasting, about, for example, 8 hours without eating, our biological system will seek the second choice of glucose. So first is the dietary food. A second, in case of fasting, no dietary food, is the glycogen. So glycogen rapidly catabolized in liver and the skeletal muscle. And glucose, which is produced from hydrolysis of glycogen in the skeletal muscle, used by skeletal muscle only. But glycogen in liver hydrolyzed to glucose, and this glucose will be released to the blood circulatory, and most of glucose will be used by the brain as a source of energy, and heart also as a source of energy. So brain and heart. No, there is no glycogen in the heart. The glycogen in skeletal muscle and the
liver.
Brain has no time for glycogen synthesis. Most of glucose used transported to brain, used as source of energy, glycolysis. Okay, so source of energy. Okay, brain controlling, so consume lots of energy. Okay, أكتر organ يشتغل هو البرين. ما دام يشتغل معناها consume high ATP. No time for anabolism of glycogen in the brain. So anabolism of glycogen in skeletal muscle and liver. The high concentration in liver, but the quantity high in skeletal muscle. Why? Because of the skeletal muscle more in kilograms than in the case of liver. So liver is about 2 kilograms. Skeletal muscle, 24, 25, 30, 40 kilograms. So concentration high in liver, but because of mass of the skeletal muscle, the amount of glycogen in the skeletal muscle more. But the concentration is higher in liver. Why? Because of our kitchen is the liver. Our kitchen. So liver preparing glucose. Preparing glucose. Storing the glucose as glycogen. For what? Mainly for brain. Preparing glucose. Mainly for brain. Okay. Gluconeogenesis. Fasting. Store the glucose as glycogen. Why? For brain mainly, hypoglycemia, hydrolysis of glycogen to glucose, glucose to the blood, can cross the blood-brain barrier to the brain. So source of energy, mainly brain. Okay. The glycogen synthesis, it is a glycogenesis. So genesis means synthesis. Where does this glycogen synthesis occur? In the liver and the skeletal muscle. Where? In cytoplasm. So in cytoplasmic of hepatocytes and skeletal muscle cells. So skeletal muscle and liver. Where? In cytoplasm. Okay, glycogen synthesis is many steps. Number one, activation. Number two, initiation. Number three, elongation. Number four, modeling or branching. Number one, activation. What is the activation? It is synthesis of UDP glucose. Synthesis of UDP glucose. So the active form of glucose in case of glycogen synthesis, glycogenesis, is UDP glucose. UDP glucose. UDP glucose. So glucose phosphorylated by hexokinase or glucokinase. So hexokinase or glucokinase to glucose 6 phosphate. The source of phosphate group is ADP. By mutase enzyme, you know the mutase enzyme function, changing the position of glucose from carbon number 6 to carbon number 1. So from phosphorylation from carbon number 6 to carbon number 1. So glucose become glucose 1 phosphate. So phosphate group will change from carbon number 6 to carbon number 1. And this enzyme is a mutase enzyme. A mutase enzyme. Glucose 1 phosphate interact with a UTP, uridyl triphosphate. Uridyl triphosphate. So uridyl triphosphate. So glucose will bind with UDP glucose. And how many phosphate group was released? 2 phosphate group. One from asaccharide, diphosphate, 1 phosphate. So pyrophosphate. This compound is pyrophosphate. Pyrophosphate. But pyrophosphate is unstable. Converted to inorganic phosphate. So this step equivalent to 2 ATP consumed. Why? Because 2 inorganic phosphate is equivalent to is equivalent to 2 ATP consumption. 2 inorganic phosphate is equivalent to consumption of 2 ATP.
Consumption في شنو بقى؟
In biological reactions. Okay, so loss or releasing of 2 inorganic phosphate from the reaction equivalent to 2 ATP consumption. So in this step, our biological system losing ATP, consuming 2 ATP. So this enzyme, we called it pyrophosphorylase. Pyrophosphorylase. So UDP glucose pyrophosphorylase. Okay? UDP glucose pyrophosphorylase. Okay. So this is the first step. So what is the first step? It is synthesis of UDP glucose. So only UDP glucose added to glucose. So only the UDP glucose will be used for glycogen synthesis. So glucose 6-phosphate cannot be used, is inactive. Glucose 1-phosphate cannot be used. So glucose 1-phosphate, glucose 6-phosphate must convert it to active form of glucose, which can be used for synthesis of glycogen. So active form of glucose in case of glycogen synthesis is UDP glucose. So the first step is the activation of glucose. The second step, it is initiation. And the initiation is the synthesis of primer. Synthesis of primer. Synthesis of primer. What is the primer? Primer is a ligamer of glucose. A ligamer of glucose. At least 7 molecules of glucose. What is the protein responsible for synthesis of primer? It is the glycogenine. So this is the glycogenine, and the glycogenine is the peptide consisting from 2 subunits, and in these subunits, the glycogenine will use UDP glucose for synthesis of at least 7 molecules of glucose. 1, Okay. Okay, 7 molecules of glucose. So, glycogen, glycogenine. So, glycogenine will use UDP. Glucose, the active form of glucose for synthesis of a primer. So, what is the primer? It is a oligomer of glucose. Okay? And UDP is released. UDP is released from reaction. UDP again will convert it to UTP. UTP, the source of phosphate group, ATP to ADP. A third consumption of ATP. So UTP used again for activation. Okay, so second or third consumption of ATP. 2 molecules in activation and initiation and also elongation. UDP released. UDP must phosphorylate to be used for activation. Okay, so a third ATP. Third ATP will be consumed for activation. Glucose to UDP glucose. So, initiation of the synthesis of primer. And the primer is very important. Why? Because elongation cannot occur without initiation. So, in elongation, there is enzyme. It is glycogen synthase. And the function of glycogen synthase, it is addition of UDP glucose to the primer with glycogenine plus primer. The primer with this glycogenine was converted to glycogen. Okay, so the function, what is the elongation? So elongation of a chain. Elongation of a chain. And UDP glucose added. UDP released, converted to UTP, used for activation. UDP, elongation. So the most important enzyme in the glycogen synthesis is a regulatory enzyme. It is glycogen synthase. It's glycogen synthase. So why initiation is important? Why? Because glycogen synthase cannot add glucose without formation of a primer. So must be a primer to be glucose added. So without formation of a primer, this glycogen synthase cannot work. So versus activation, second, initiation, addition of a primer, formation of a primer, it is oligomer of glucose. When the primer formed, then the glycogen synthase can add UDP glucose to the chain. Elongation of the oligomer. Okay. The third or fourth step is modeling. Modeling, what is the meaning of modeling? Modeling is the branching of a chain. Branching of a chain. So when at least 11 glucose added, 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Sorry. When at least 11 على الأقل 11 of glucose added. The branching enzyme will translocate this chain to another position. 1, 2, 3, 4 and chain هذه كلها chain at 5 1 6. This is 6 carbon 1 1 4 1 4 1 4 1 4 1 4 elongation. Lots of position in which the glycogen synthase work. Elongation من كل الاتجاهات. Elongation, modeling, branching. لكن ضروري يكون بين هالبوينت مثلا another branching 1 2 3 4 5 صار عند ال 5 branching. elongation, branch صار branching متشعب. So okay. So other than synthesis of glycogen. So number 1, activation of glucose to UDP glucose. Second,
Initiation.
initiation.
Forming the brine.
What is the protein responsible for formation of primer? It's glycogen.
Gene synthesis.
Glycogen, it's peptide. A third, it's elongation. So when the primer formed, then the glycogen synthase can work, addition of glucose. Okay? The last step is the branching. Okay. The active or regulatory enzyme is the glycogen synthase. And the glycogen synthase is regulated by phosphorylation, dephosphorylation. Phosphorylated form, inactive. A dephosphorylated form, active. So hormonal regulation. Activated also by availability of substrate. What is the substrate for glycogen? It is glucose. So anabolism of glucose only in case of filled state. So glycogen synthesis cannot be occur in fasting or starvation. So must be glucose, must be insulin. So in case of diabetes mellitus, class 1, so there is glucose in blood, hyperglycemia, but no anabolic hormone. Insulin absent. So no glycogen synthesis. So we know that the cell membrane consisting of integral protein. It's a G protein. Alpha, beta, gamma. When the alpha inactive, that means DGDA is fine. Okay, glucagon. In case of number, okay, when the glycogen in liver, so there's glucagon work. No glucagon receptor for in skeletal muscle. So glucagon cannot work in skeletal muscle. Another enzyme, hormones in skeletal muscle can work on the G protein. It's epinephrine, norepinephrine, dopamine, T3, T4, glucocorticoid. Okay, so another catabolic hormone. So no glucagon receptor in skeletal muscle. Okay. So glucagon in hepatocytes, for example, interact with the G protein coupling receptor or second transmembrane part of the G protein. So the alpha will phosphorylate the 2-diphosphate to triphosphate. When phosphorylated, will dissociated from beta and gamma. So therefore we called it G proteins. Why? Because activated by GTP, inhibited by GDP. So when GDP bind with alpha subunit deactivation, when the GDP phosphorylated to GTP, the alpha subunit will activate it, and when activated will bind with adenylyl cyclase, and function of adenylyl cyclase is
Convert
the
الATP
cyclization of ATP
to
to
cyclic
cyclic adenosine monophosphate.
monophosphate.
Cyclic adenosine. When cyclic adenosine monophosphate elevated in cytoplasm, will bind with the inhibitory a protein protein kinase A. So there is active site for cyclic in the inhibitory protein of cyclic protein
Protein
kinase.
kinase.
So when the cyclic adenosine monophosphate bind with inhibitory protein, changing in tertiary structure, conformation of inhibitory protein will occur, and the inhibitory protein will dissociate from a
Protein
protein
kinase.
kinase A. So protein kinase A will become active. So release it from its inhibitory protein, which making it as inactive. Okay, so become active. So the protein kinase will phosphorylate this glycogen synthase. And this glycogen synthase will phosphorylate it inactive.
Active.
So glucagon inhibiting the glycogenesis by modification of glycogen synthase to phosphorylated glycogen synthase. And the bond is covalent bond, therefore we called it also phosphorylation, dephosphorylation, or covalent modification. Why? Because the bond between phosphatic group and the enzyme is covalent bond. So modification by covalent phosphorylation. Covalent modification or hormonal regulation, the same. Hormonal regulation, covalent modification, or phosphorylation, dephosphorylation, the same meaning. Okay, how insulin antagonizes glucagon? Number one, by hydrolyzing the cyclic adenosine monophosphate to adenosine monophosphate by phosphodiesterase 4. Phosphodiesterase 4. Hydrolysis, decreasing the cyclic adenosine monophosphate, elevating of adenosine monophosphate. So this enzyme is stimulated by insulin, phosphodiesterase, phosphodiesterase 4. So we have in biological system lots of phosphodiesterases. Phosphodiesterase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, phosphodiesterase. Number two, the insulin activating the gene expression of protein phosphatase. What is the function of protein phosphatase? Protein phosphatase is the
Remove.
enzyme which can dephosphorylate
ينزل فوسفات.
is glycogen synthase phosphorylated form to dephosphorylated form. So removing the phosphated group from phosphorylate is glycogen synthase, so this glycogen synthase now
Become
this glycogen
active.
synthase become active. The third mechanism, we know in cytoplasm there's a receptor for insulin. It is tyrosine kinase receptor. Tyrosine kinase receptor. So when insulin binds with the integral protein, phosphorylation and dimerization of tyrosine kinase will occur. So the tyrosine kinase consisting from two subunits. This subunit and this is second subunit. Separated when the insulin absent, inactive. When insulin bind, the subunits will dimerize it, interacted with each other. And conformation will occur for the cytoplasmic part of tyrosine kinase. Activation of tyrosine kinase. There is tyrosine kinase here. There is tyrosine T. We know the chemical structure of tyrosine. OH, CH2, C, COOH, NH2H. So the OH will bind phosphated group. So tyrosine B, so phosphorylated, activated. So this phosphorylation occurs when the subunit is dimerized. When the subunit is dimerized, insulin binds. So insulin binds, dimerization, phosphorylation, activation of tyrosine kinase phosphorylation. So insulin receptor substrate will activate. What is the insulin receptor substrate? It's a protein in cytoplasm. So bind with the cytoplasmic part of tyrosine kinase receptor. When the insulin receptor substrate bind with the phosphorylated part of tyrosine kinase receptor, it's become active and activating the phosphatidyl inositol diphosphate kinase. What is the function of phosphatidyl inositol diphosphate kinase? Phosphorylation of phosphatidyl inositol diphosphate. So this is phosphatidyl inositol diphosphate, phosphorylated by phosphatidyl inositol diphosphate kinase to phosphatidyl inositol triphosphate. So phosphatidyl inositol triphosphate. When phosphatidyl inositol triphosphate elevated in cytoplasm,